When I was about 7, something happened that never left me, no matter how much I tried to forget it. It was an ordinary afternoon, the kind where nothing feels strange until it suddenly does. I got home from school, tossed my bag near the stairs, and started walking up one step at a time. The house was quiet, dead quiet, as if even the walls were holding their breath. Then I heard it, the scrape of a chair in the living room. My dad shot up from the chair like he'd been electrified. He didn't say a word or even look at me. He just stood there, chest heaving, eyes blank, like something inside him had been switched on. He moved too quickly, his movements sharp and stiff, grabbed his truck keys from the counter, and stormed out the front door. Usually when he was angry it was loud, yelling, breaking things, slamming doors, but this time it wasn't rage, it was worse. It was cold. I remember watching him through the window as he sat in the truck, completely still, hands gripping the wheel even though the engine wasn't running. Slowly, he turned his head toward me and gestured for me to come, just one slow motion of his finger. I should have run, but when you grow up around fear, your body obeys before your brain even has a chance to react. So I got in. The truck reeked of gasoline, metal, and a faint, burnt smell, reminiscent of melted rubber. He didn't say a word, he just started driving. The road was empty, stretching under a pale gray sky, and the silence pressed down hard on my ears until I could hear my heartbeat. His eyes didn't look human anymore, they were wide, glassy, unblinking. Then, halfway down the road, he slowly turned his head toward me and whispered something. I don't remember what it was, but whatever he said made my stomach twist, as if I'd just heard something I was never meant to hear. Suddenly, he turned the wheel hard, straight into oncoming traffic. A massive semi-truck was coming right at us, horn blaring so loudly that it felt like the air was being ripped apart. I remember every second, the lights, the roar, the feeling that time just stopped, and then, at the last possible second, my dad yanked the wheel back. We spun, the tires screeched, and my chest slammed against the seatbelt. The truck missed us by inches. He started screaming, but it wasn't just one man crying. It sounded like two voices overlapping, echoing from his throat. I couldn't move. I couldn't even breathe. I felt like my soul had left my body and I was just watching from somewhere else. When we got home, he didn't say a word, just walked inside. I sat outside for hours, staring at the tire marks on the road, too numb to cry. I didn't talk for 2 days after that. And when I finally did, I realized that I could never look at him the same way again. That day it wasn't anger. It wasn't madness. It was possession. Years passed. I tried to bury that memory, but it lingered in the corners of my mind like something waiting to wake up. My mom called it stress, but sometimes at night I would see him sitting alone, whispering to no one. By the time I turned 14, he barely spoke to anyone. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m. to the sound of gravel crunching outside. When I looked out the window, my dad was standing barefoot in the driveway, his head tilted back, eyes closed, mumbling words I didn't understand. I thought maybe he was praying, but then he turned his head sharply toward me. Even from that distance, I felt a cold dread crawl up my spine. I ducked and hid behind my bed for hours. When I looked again, he was gone. In the morning, there were footprints circling the house, perfect circles. And on the truck's windshield, written in the fog, were 2 words, "Not yet." When I was 17, he taught me to drive that same truck. The first time I sat behind the wheel, I felt sick. The leather was cracked and old, but when I adjusted the seat, I saw something carved into the dashboard, faint scratches forming letters, "Let Go." I asked him about it and his face went pale. He just said, "Don't talk about that." That night, while driving home from the mechanic, the truck suddenly stalled. Right on the same stretch of road from that day when I was 7. My dad started panicking, whispering, "Not again, not again." I turned the key, nothing. Then the radio flickered on. Static. But underneath there was a voice, faint, distant, repeating one word, "Turn," over and over. My dad screamed, slammed his fist into the dashboard, and suddenly everything stopped. The engine came back to life. The radio went silent. He didn't look at me once the entire ride home. 3 years later, he died of a heart attack. At least that's what they said. After the funeral, I went to the truck one last time. The keys were still in the ignition. I don't know why, but I felt like I had to sit in it, as if it was calling me. The air inside was cold, even though it was summer. I sat down, touched the wheel, and the radio came alive again, static hissing, and then, "My name," whispered, over and over. I tried to get out, but the doors wouldn't open. The keys turned themselves, the engine roared, the headlights flashed on, and in the rearview mirror, I saw him. My dad. Sitting in the passenger seat. His reflection, not his body. His eyes were black and his lips were moving as if chanting. The truck began rolling forward on its own. I screamed and yanked the handle until it snapped off. Somehow, I got the door open and jumped out. The truck sped down the road by itself, disappearing into the dark. The next morning, they found it flipped in a ditch miles away. There were 2 sets of footprints outside, one leading to the truck and one leading away. But only mine matched my shoes. Now it's been 15 years. I moved to another town, changed everything, even my name. I told myself it was all trauma, just a bad memory. But sometimes, late at night, when everything goes quiet, I hear it again, the sound of a truck engine idling outside, the low hum of static creeps in from nowhere. And when I look out the window, sometimes I see him, standing beside that same old truck, the one that shouldn't exist anymore, just standing there, watching, smiling faintly, waiting, for what, I don't know. But every time I see those headlights flicker in the dark, I remember the words written on the windshield all those years ago, not yet. And now, sometimes I wonder, when it finally does come back, will it say now? It started like any other quiet night in my small college town apartment, the kind of place that looked harmless from the outside, with warm lights behind drawn curtains and the smell of rain on the street. I was sitting on the porch with a cigarette in one hand and my open textbook in the other, pretending to study while the city slept. The air was unnaturally still, so quiet that the hum of the streetlight above felt almost alive. That's when I noticed him, a man standing under the light across the courtyard. He wasn't moving, not even swaying. Just standing, his head tilted slightly as if he was listening to something only he could hear. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone, but when I looked up again, his face was tilted toward me. I couldn't make out any details, yet I felt the weight of a smile, faint, deliberate, and wrong. The next night he was there again. Same spot, same posture. No sound, no movement. Except this time, I realized there was no shadow beneath him. The light above him flickered, but he remained untouched by it, as if the darkness refused to claim him. I lifted my phone to take a video, needing proof that my tired mind wasn't playing tricks. Through the screen, the space beneath the lamp was empty, just cracked asphalt and a trembling light. But the feeling of being watched didn't fade. It pressed heavier, closer, like invisible hands on my shoulders. By Wednesday night, sleep was impossible. Around 3 in the morning, I heard a knock, 3 slow, rhythmic taps. My heart froze. I live on the 3rd floor. The front door downstairs locks at 10. No one should have been able to get in. I asked, "Who is it?" Silence. Then a familiar voice answered, "My boyfriend Alex." Except Alex was hundreds of miles away visiting family. Still, the voice said, "It's me, Alex. You left the light on." I looked through the peephole, an empty hallway. The air on the other side of the door felt heavy, like something was breathing against it. By Thursday, paranoia had settled in like a cold. The landlord brushed me off, said some drunk student probably got the wrong apartment. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the walls themselves were watching. I heard footsteps above me even though I lived on the top floor, and sometimes when I'd stop moving, I'd still hear soft breathing, from somewhere too close to be real. Friday night I stayed awake. At 1:20 a.m. the street light flickered. I turned off my lamp and peered out the window. He was there again, still as stone. But this time there was a shadow, only it wasn't his. It was mine. The figure stood in the same pose I did, head tilted, hand twitching just like mine, except when I stepped back it didn't. It kept standing perfectly still under the light, my own darkness trapped beneath his feet. Saturday I called Alex. He said something that chilled me, that I'd called him 2 nights ago around 1:30 a.m. He said my voice sounded strange, slow, like I was whispering through water, repeating the exact words, "Don't let me in." I hadn't touched my phone that night. On Sunday, my downstairs neighbor, Claire, came to my door. Her hands were shaking and her eyes were rimmed red. She said someone knocked on her door at midnight, 3 slow knocks. When she asked who it was, a voice said, "It's me, Anna." That's my name. She swore it sounded exactly like me. By Monday, every mirror in my apartment felt hostile. While brushing my teeth, I saw movement behind me. I turned, nothing. But when I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was smiling, lips stretched too wide. It whispered, "He likes it when you watch." I dropped my toothbrush, heart pounding so loud it drowned everything else. I stopped sleeping altogether. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him. Sometimes outside, sometimes in the hall, sometimes in my reflection. Always smiling. Always still. I started reading about mimics, shapeshifters, entities that feed on recognition. Things that can only enter your world if you believe they exist. The problem was I already did. Then Tuesday night there was another knock. I checked the peephole. Alex. Or someone who looked exactly like him. "Hey," he said, smiling. "You left the light on." Exact words as before. My throat went dry. I texted Alex, "Are you outside my door?" His reply came seconds later. "No, just landed." The knocking stopped. Silence fell heavier than ever. At 3:17 a.m., the walls started to breathe again. I prayed out loud, voice trembling. The air grew colder. On my window, words appeared, traced in condensation. "Let me be you." Wednesday, I heard Claire scream. When I ran downstairs, her apartment was empty. The mirror in her bathroom was cracked clean down the middle, shards glittering like teeth in the moonlight. Thursday night, I knew it was inside. The knock came again, this time from inside my apartment. Every window reflection showed a different version of me. One standing, one sleeping, one smiling. My shadow twitched and stepped away from my feet. It whispered, "You left the light on." I grabbed a kitchen knife. The air rippled, and for the first time I saw it clearly, a shape peeling away from the darkness, wearing my face. I don't remember much after that. Screaming, glass breaking, a blur of movement. When I came to, the sun was rising, warm light spilling across the room. My reflection was regular again. On the mirror, written in dust, "Thank you for not letting me in." That evening, the police found Claire alive, locked in the maintenance closet below the basement. She said she saw me there, eyes black, mouth stretched too wide. The cops said it was all a hallucination caused by a gas leak. But the building's security footage told another story. Between 1 o'clock and 3 a.m., every camera glitched, except one. The one pointed at my door. The footage showed me stepping outside, barefoot, standing under the streetlight. Then another me stepped out of the shadows beside me. They both smiled. Then the feed cut to static. I left that apartment days later. The walls felt too quiet, the air too still, like the silence after something finishes feeding. I moved in with Alex. The new place was bright, clean, ordinary, the kind of home where nothing bad should happen. But sometimes, when the sun hits the window just right, I still see movement in the glass. A flicker. A smile that isn't mine. Once, before leaving for good, I whispered, "You can't follow me." And for the first time it blinked, then vanished. I thought it was over. I wanted it to be. A month later, Alex and I were driving home late at night. The road was empty, lit by passing streetlights. I caught our reflection in the car window. Two faces, mine and his. For a second, mine didn't move. Then it smiled and whispered, "You left the light on." It vanished as another light passed. But this time I didn't feel fear. I felt understanding. Maybe it wasn't trying to kill me. Perhaps it just wanted to be seen. Because when I finally saw it, really saw it, it lost its hold. Some monsters, I think, only exist in the dark corners of attention, feeding on the moment before you look away. Now I keep the lights on not because I'm afraid, but because whatever that thing was, the shadow that wore my face, it still remembers me. And if it ever looks again, I'd rather it see me clearly than ever wear my face again.